And what was interesting in there is that the One Planet Schools group, working group, agreed that learning for sustainability was best taken forward by what they called the whole school approach. That enables the school and its wider community, key term, to build the values, attitudes, knowledge, skills and confidence, to develop practices and take decisions which are compatible with a sustainable and equitable society. So what I'd like to do a little bit is actually having a look at how those are actually, we would look at those because we gather evidence on this. And if you have a look at the report, Education Scotland's charged with a number of key things that we have to start to do. But it's also the inspection arm of it actually goes out and sees if those things are actually working, and we do that in an impartial and rigorous way. So those areas that you see, global citizenship, outdoor learning, sustainable development education, and children's rights, they're all areas we will now look at regularly on a school, a secondary school, and a primary school, early years, but also particularly in the secondary school and a learning community inspection. It's interesting this week, I'm actually on an inspection as we speak down in Musselburgh, and there are some of these areas already arriving during this week as we've gone along. So what happens is when you are actually out, you look at those from a dual perspective. You look at both the focus on the school, because teachers and others have got to a priority to take these things forward, and also, and more crucially, in the wider community in which it rests. And it's that interplay between the two I think is really important to explore. What you'll see is that CFE actually places learning for sustainability at its heart, and it's embodied in the 4 capacities. So it's no longer just about learning, it's about what sort of, are you a confident individual? Are you a responsible citizen? Are you an effective contributor to your society? And we start to see increasingly schools demonstrate these capacities. So for example, as the Minister talked about, there's a huge increase in the use of outdoor learning in everything from nursery spaces, examples like forest schools that we see people working with, much more innovative use of school grounds on their hinterlands, on their boundaries, that actually, you know, a whole range of things happen there. It's not just about nice places for humans to come, it's also nice places for animals to arrive and live in as well. So we create wildlife refuges around a number of schools. There are a lot of work involved in outdoor learning in transition trips, and increasingly in the P7S1 transition across Scotland. I know my colleague Anna and I see this all the time. Trips out to the outdoors are a key part of that. Now, what's really interesting is the huge increase in Duke of Edinburgh, delivered not just by schools but by partners out there, including CLD partners. And the big one, huge impact, is the John Muir Award. And the John Muir, I've inspected across Scotland, and the John Muir Award is everywhere, which is really, really interesting, that a small award from a small community in Scotland, without big money and big policy drives behind it, is the award that lots and lots of young people are getting more involved in. First point I want to make is that we've got numerous examples in our learning community inspections where school-based activity around sustainability and learning for sustainability has not actually come from the school, but has arisen from the local community and the partners involved in CLD. The school has opened its doors to it, but the impetus first comes from those groups. If we get down to some of the nitty-gritty about how a lot of programmes are actually delivered around learning for sustainability in Scotland, the support and delivery of a lot of outdoor learning programmes in Scotland is by CLD partners working with schools. And I know a lot of schools who could not deliver the award programmes if it wasn't for the CLD partners. It's not always the CLD service, it could be some of the organisations that are round and about. Next one is the focus upon global citizenship and children and young people's rights in many areas has been adopted and driven by MSYPs and youth forums around the country. And I was just this week having an interesting chat with some young people in the secondary school who were reminding me that the votes for 16 at the referendum was a long-held demand of the Scottish Youth Parliament. And that didn't come from the adults, it came from them that they actually got that. Equally, they were also owning up a lot about equal marriage and the new proposals there, that they were driving a lot in those sorts of areas, not just MSYPs, but at youth forum levels as well. So you can see the pulse of feeling coming through the youth councils and forums around the country, feeding into the Scottish Youth Parliament, and then out of that up into the formal Parliament itself. And it's really interesting to start to see that and see that some of the kids are actually making the connection between the two. And one of the things we're looking at the moment is we are looking at our inspection model to see how we can capture some of the wider social outcomes of learning in communities, to capture them more fully, and also the big issue, look at impact. What difference does it make? And look at that over time. So you don't just arrive on a 1 week thing and then go away. You might actually start to see some of the changes happening over time. And I think that's the bit that if we can get that right, it'll tie right into the title of this conference. Because what you do see is small steps do lead to big changes. But you have to give them time to actually bed down. And you have to give them time to see. So our time dimension maybe has to be looked at. Can't just take these short snapshots. We have to take a much longer approach. The next big one that's coming up is the implementation of the CLD regulations in 2015. As those roll out, and my colleague Ann Kivlin and others are doing a lot of work in this, to get people ready for this, and to start to think about, if you're creating plans around that, how does sustainability and learning for sustainability fit into that? And the likelihood is, looking a little bit further down the line, maybe 3 to 4 years, is it's likely we'll see increased focus on inspections on the implementations when they're put into practice on the ground. So we'll start to actually ask, how are you doing? And we're already starting to think about tasks and things that will enable us to start to look at that, getting us ready for 2015.